So, hi there. Welcome to Journey to a Youthful Life. And I am honored and privileged today to have Lori Brandt come on and discuss the Four Agreements with us today. Lori is author of a book called The Happiness Toolbox, but she also does coaching in that area, correct? And Unleash Your Greatness Conference, which is coming up for its annual next year, 2020. I attended the conference, and I have to say it's something you should not miss, but I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I'll be giving away some of the toolbox items there. So I'll let everybody, they can ask me about it if they want, but I'm definitely not going to give a lot of it away. So, but it's definitely helped me tremendously too. I was missing that one piece, and I think you mentioned that too. And that was that big light bulb aha moment for me. So welcome, Lori. It's an honor to have you on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. So I'm really curious. You're the interviewer, but so tell me, what was the missing piece for you?
Um, it was the last part, the evidence.
Mm.
So now when those limiting beliefs pop up and we did that apron and the ceremony and the whole, I can picture that in my mind. I'll picture the limiting belief and then the evidence. And then it's like,
Wow.
oh yeah, I've got this.
Good.
That was that missing piece. Because, for years you do affirmations, but you're wondering, why is this not working?
I hear you. I definitely experienced, don't get me wrong. I think the positive affirmations in the beginning, because I was so down and out, that the positive affirmations did have a positive effect.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't long lasting.
Right.
Because as soon as life challenged me again, I was right back where I was. So yeah, I know what you mean about the missing piece. So that's awesome. Yeah, you know what? Today, it's sunny today. And I actually went back to the club where the Unleash Your Greatness conference was. And I can't help but just kind of ruminate in what happened, because it really was a phenomenal weekend. I loved it.
It was great. Yeah. I love the whole, the meditating, yoga, everything about it. And just connecting with other souls and meeting people where they're at and helping them and seeing so many transformations. And it was great. Yeah.
It was beautiful, especially for myself to have the opportunity to look out and watch as people moved and shifted over the weekend, and then at the end just totally owning it and embracing their greatness. It was so cool. Yeah.
Definitely like the different techniques you use, the painting and the apron. Yeah. Definitely great. So I look forward to next year.
Good. Yes, I'm waiting to secure the date, but we're definitely doing it again. And I think if there's anyone that's interested in that missing piece, into really anchoring this positive but life-affirming way of thinking, so that they can live from that state of greatness that I believe everybody is naturally. Yeah,
for sure. And I think one of the things I did, because I knew your workshop or your conference was coming up, and for me, I didn't want to go there and wallow in a lot of the limiting beliefs that I had. So I had been working on it for years, but I think leading up to it, 2-3 weeks before, is where I started working on a little bit of inner child work, as well as that's when I picked up the Four Agreements, and I just went, wow.
So what was the wow?
It was just, for a long time I'd been thinking that everybody tells us that we create our own reality, we manifest our life, we create, and I just kept thinking, how? But when I read the book, and he said that all these things that come from our childhood, that we're living other people's agreements, not our own. And so it's all lies, right? And that was the big aha moment, the big shift for me. So by the time I came to your conference, it was, okay, I'm ready. And even though all these limiting beliefs that were coming up during the conference, they weren't as scary as before. They weren't as limiting as before. They weren't as paralyzing as before because of the book. So I was able to move through quickly and get that peace.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
So that's why I highly recommend the book for people. So tell us a little bit about, I guess you ran, you said you were doing a manifest group in Barrie and you're reading the Four Agreements. So tell us about sort of maybe some things that would help people as they're reading the book.
What really jumped out at me when I was reading the Four Agreements was that one area, and I'm not quite sure what agreement it's under, but it's about the movie theater. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea is that we are all living our life as though we're watching our own movie and we're the main character. But if he talks about this, how if we were to go into, say, our mother's movie and how she perceives the world, it's completely different because her perception of the same situation is filtered through her life and her belief system and what she believes to be true. So all of us are never ever perceiving the same thing. And to me, that was really so fascinating to me, because I just assumed that if we are at the same event, we're seeing the same things, and we're all on the same page. And then when I read the Four Agreements, I realized, you know what? We're all not on the same page. And it opened me up to the idea that I'm viewing life in any moment in a single perception of it. And so if my initial perception feels good, I just stay with it. But if my initial perception doesn't feel good, then I question it, because I know that I'm just seeing it one way. And if it doesn't feel good, I'm going to entertain and open myself up to an alternate feel-good perception, because that is always there. I just have to look for it.
So I guess that's really trusting your instinct and intuition. Is that what you're?
Yeah, no, not for me.
Not for you? Or it's just, so what is that feel good then?
So the reason I say it's not just intuition, because I don't know about you, but my ego is really good at tricking me and into thinking that I'm perceiving it through clear eyes. And so I had to get really in touch with my body for this process. And when I don't feel good, my body feels different. It feels like discomfort. It feels, it can be very subtle too. But if I'm believing a perception that is not a feel good physiologically, it's like my neon sign letting me know that I'm believing something to be true that isn't. Because if I'm this natural state of greatness, and I know that we talked about this at the conference, but it's my basic understanding that we already are everything that we're looking for. Our natural state is peace, calm, and happiness. So if I'm not feeling that, then that means I got triggered and my ego is starting to draw me away from that connection with my natural state. And so for me, when I say, if it doesn't feel good, I'm not talking emotionally, I'm talking about physically, because for me, that's how it works.
I guess going back to the movie theater, I'm reminded that it might be with the second agreement where we take things personally. When somebody says something to us or does something to us, and really and what he says is the issue is with them, not with us, because how they perceive it. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the way we look at it, right?
Yeah. And, that was a huge journey for me, because there's this whole spiritual principle about projecting.
Right.
And if we project something outside of us as being bad or wrong, it's actually our stuff that we need to work on. And I resisted that because I thought for sure I found examples that were the exception. It's not me, it's them. And I really, I worked on that for a really long time. But on the premise that of the movie theater, if we can open ourselves up to what somebody has been exposed to in their life that brought them to a space where maybe they were, maybe what appears to being mean to people or yelling or screaming on the interview, I asked him specifically about an example. What if somebody's yelling at you? And what I've come to see is that maybe that particular person was yelled at their whole life as a child. And that's how they have come to see how they can be heard, is to yell. And it's not that they're bad or mean. It's just they don't know any other way. Mm-hmm. And when I can open myself up to that in the moment, I can just hold the space and see them for that natural state of greatness that they are. Mm-hmm. And just understand that they're just not connected to that right now. But it's there.
That's good. I like that they're not mm-hmm. connected to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
for sure. He also talks about, maybe you could help us with that too, is one of the things I guess he mentions as well, and many other authors like Eckhart Tolle, so on, is being present and in the moment, not worrying about the past or the future. I mean, we do have to worry in some way when it comes to, finances and groceries and things like that, right? But when it comes to ourselves, how would your conference, let's say, or how would Jose look at living in the present?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I struggled with this one too. I was always trying to figure it out. Like I would get a spiritual principle, but then be like, okay, yeah, but how do you do that in real life? How do you plan for a 3-day event and be present? Or how do you do your budget, but be present in the moment? And so what I've come to see is that presence to me is if I'm in alignment. Okay. And when I mean an alignment, that means I'm not in my mind, stressing over my finances. Instead, I'm connected to that natural state of peace and calm. And, if you've never experienced that, then I might sound like, what are you talking about? And so for those people that may be watching that are not sure what that means, I would say, find a time in your life that maybe you were sitting on a beach and you were hearing the water and you were hearing the birds and you were just so in tune with what was going on in the sounds, mm-hmm. that there were no thoughts, or if there were thoughts, they were just passing in and out and they weren't really catching your attention. You were just, taking in the sun, feeling it on your skin. That kind of that's a presence feeling. So I can do that even though I'm planning for my conference. Now, keep in mind, I've been doing this for a long time and I still come out of alignment for, say, something like planning the conference. But it's how I feel when I start to move out of alignment. I catch myself being agitated. Maybe my body's hurting. I'm getting annoyed. And then I just know, you know what? I need to stop because I need to come back into alignment. So as a coach too, you have to keep in mind, my whole job is to work somebody towards a goal. Mm. And yet I'm talking about being present. So I've come to see that there's two things going on. If so let's say, for example, give me an example of what you would worry about naturally. You think you would worry about naturally?
Right now would be finances.
Okay. So for me, in order to stay alignment, I get really clear on the facts. So, how much money are you looking to have? I guess, is that what you're projecting out in the future, is how much money you want to have? Okay. So there would be a timeline, and I would just, identify what that timeline is. So let's say it's a year, you want to have $5,000, and I'm just making an arbitrary number. And so in order to get $5,000 in a year, I would take 5,000 and divide it by 12 and figure out how much money I would need each month. And then I would break that monthly amount, divide it by 4, and figure out what I need per week. Because I have found when I can focus in on just 1 week at a time, I don't get caught up in all the worries, because I create a plan to save just the amount of money I need for that week. And so what that does is I'm planning for something long term in the year, but by breaking it down, what I'm doing is I'm letting go of that mind chatter. You see, if we don't break it down and make it into a smaller chunk, our mind just keeps replaying. Oh, I got to have this by the end of the year. I got to have this. And what am I going to do? And it just keeps going and going and going. But I find if we break it down into smaller chunks, we get to let it go, because we know if we just save that amount of money in 1 week and we keep doing it, we will have exactly what we need in 12 months.
Yeah, I already got calmer just thinking about, like when you first had me thinking about a year from now, I went, no. But then I started thinking about it like month by month and then down week. Yeah, it was just so much, okay, that's doable.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, because when you bring it down into doable, you can feel your body just go, oh. And then what the greatest part about all this is when you go to that odd place, that's presence. And then all of a sudden, you are now open to a whole bunch of possibilities and solutions of how to save that money that you might have been closed off to previously, because you're in alignment. And so, yes, you have a plan for 12 months, but do not be surprised that all of a sudden you have all these opportunities to make the money and save it that wasn't even a part of the plan.
Yeah.
Because you're keeping yourself in alignment. If we're worrying, we have to keep in mind, worry is actually resistance. You're keeping the money away from you.
So that would be like a contraction, I guess.
Yeah.
Restricting. Mm-hmm. Now, would you also recommend breaking it down to like a daily activity as well, or?
Sure. I mean,
like for anything, like if people want to, stop taking things personally, for example, how could they use this?
So can you give me an example? It's always easier to.
Let's say somebody says, I'm trying to think, if somebody says to me, oh, I hate your metaphors, for example.
Okay.
And I'm always thinking about how, what that person said, and I take it personally.
And so you believe, and so what are you wanting? So we have to get really clear on what it is that you're wanting.
I want to be able to use my metaphors and the way I use analogies in life to help people without having this replaying in my mind that this person gave their opinion on what they thought about metaphors and seeing metaphors as being not good in a way.
Okay, so if you were using metaphors and feeling good about it, what would that look like?
That's a good question. Well, it looks like I'm explaining myself to my clients, and at the same time they're getting it because they're getting a visual and a picture of what it looks like. So then I'm feeling elated and happy because I could see their light bulbs going off. Okay,
so see, this is the thing too, is we often have to get really clear on what it is that we're wanting. And what I heard you say is that you're wanting to use metaphors and to feel good, because what's happening now is you're using metaphors and your mind chatter is putting you down for using it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. So what I have found is I only have control over myself. I mean, Byron Katie I love this. She says there's 3 types of business. There's my business, there's your business, and there's God's business. And we're only responsible for our own business. And my own business in this case, if it was me, would be how when I use metaphors, I want to feel good. Okay, so ultimately what I want is I want my mind, so instead of, replaying somebody's critique and criticism, I want to either just be neutral and use my metaphors. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking to like feel really happy and use metaphors, or what? So that's what we have to get clear out. So
Because
what
I
is
took it
exactly?
personally, right? Like I took it as a dig or a criticism, but not a constructive criticism, but sort of a mean. It's just because it's tone and body language, right? That we all,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
how
it's
would
like
you like to feel, or what experience would you like to have when you're giving the metaphors? Not how do you give the metaphors, but how do you want to be yourself inside when you're doing it?
peaceful, calm, happy, joy.
Okay, so if you were giving those metaphors as you're talking to a client and you're feeling peaceful and calm and joy, tell me what's going on in the mind when you're doing that as well.
My brain's thinking, you're doing really well.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay,
helping.
good. Okay, so it's being positive. There's some positive affirmations. Okay, so do you see, Liz, how right there we got really clear on what we're moving towards? Because we can say, well, I don't want this and I don't want that. But if you don't want that, what do you want? And what I heard is you're looking for a neutral to positive mind chatter when you're working with client.
Right.
Okay, so that now we can start working towards. So, what behavior, what do you think you could do this week in order to move yourself towards that positive mind chatter?
Definitely utilize your tools in terms of like finding evidences in the past where I've used that and it really helped clients and how I felt when I used it. So that
Okay, so
with that
you asked me, you said, can you do this every day? So, do you want to do that every day? Do you want to do it every other day?
every day.
Okay, and so how would that look? Are you doing it in a journal? Are you doing it
Journal.
in journal? Are you doing it in the morning? Are you doing it at night?
Morning
Okay, and how long do you think you'd like to spend doing that?
at 5 minutes.
Okay, there you go. You got your plan. You're going to every day you're going to be working towards making that shift towards that positive mind chatter when working with clients.
Great.
And that's keeping presence to your goal setting. So
Mhm.
instead of thinking about, oh, I can't stand this, I keep thinking of that person who criticized me, instead, you're setting yourself up for success and moving yourself towards that change and shift that you're wanting, which is amazing.
Yes. I
Yeah,
already feel it, so that's good.
yeah,
So now I'm
yeah.
just gonna definitely write it down. So that I guess that I find is the most difficult for people because we get, it's that don't take things personally, those agreements that people that we heard when we were little or someone that we look up to, someone that we admire, and then all of a sudden they make this criticism or dig. So I think this is definitely going to help a lot of people in our group. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I've really come to see, I love, like, I have to, like, I say this until I don't, but I love criticisms because if I get one and I don't react, it's like, woohoo, this stuff works. Like, that was amazing. Because I know in the past, I totally would have taken it personal. However, even if I do take it personally and I have a negative reaction, start to feel it in my body, and then I think, what did they say to me? What am I believing to be true? And for me, one of the best techniques, this is a great technique, is I find an example of my life how that person is actually right. So let's say you criticized me and said I'm annoying. I don't know, and I'm like, how dare they? And I feel myself reacting. I'll actually think of an example of how I am in fact have been annoying, which I can come up with a million. Like if you think about it, yeah, sometimes I talk too much, and I totally annoyed my brothers and sisters when I was young, and I start to embrace that part of me, my annoying part, because it takes away the resistance. You see, if I deny how I might be annoying, I'm actually resisting it, and I'm actually creating more of a trigger within me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I embrace it and I say, yeah, you know what, you're right, I can be annoying, done, it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick anymore. So the thing is that when I react, it's a gift, because it's telling me that I have a limiting belief that just got triggered and I can do something with that. And so so you come to see that there actually is no positive and negative reaction. There's just a reaction or not a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's up to us of how we're going to process that. So when he says don't take things personally, see, when I read that, I mean, it makes sense, but it's like, yeah, but I do. and it was always like, so how do you not take it personally when you are? and what I've come to see is that it's not about that person. It's not about what they've said. It's about how I've perceived what they've said.
Right.
So for example, if they said, you're annoying, a best friend could call me annoying and I'd laugh, right?
Yeah.
But if a person, say a stranger, said you're annoying, then I would have gone into my head and found stories to resist that comment. How dare you say I'm annoying? You're the one that's annoying. So it just starts to play, and it goes into defense, and that's the ego. Mm-hmm. And when you're responding from ego, you're just building another story. You're in the world of limiting beliefs, and it's just going to keep finding evidence, and it's going to keep you from being in alignment. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
no, I believe you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is going to help everyone who's reading the book, and even within this group, because I just from talking to people, that seems to be the biggest, where we tend to take on what someone says, and instead of create this shield where it can just bounce off. So definitely, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point. That was great. So how can people get hold of you if they want to get hold of you to talk to you more about limiting beliefs and how to overcome them?
Yeah, well, they can go to my website. It's www.loribrant.com. And I also on Facebook at Finding Happiness, regardless of circumstances. Sorry. I know it was such a long name. I should never have picked that at the beginning. So Finding Happiness Regardless of Circumstances, and on Facebook and Instagram. And also I did write a book called The Happiness Toolbox, and it is about these tools that we were talking about practically applying the spiritual principles to real life.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. What I'm going to do is probably post it once I post the video, and I'll post some of those links for people for them, so if they want to.
Yeah, probably a good thing, because apparently I can't remember them.
That's okay. Yeah, let's get outside and enjoy the rest of the day. So
okay, have a good one.
It's been an honor. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was really helpful, even for me, and I'm sure for our members in the group. So
thank you so much, Liz. It was awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll see you again.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.